Welcome everyone to Summer 2. This is Government and Politics of the United States, POLS 2301. In this introduction video, I'm just going to go through what the course is about, what we're going to cover, how to access material on Blackboard, and the syllabus. I often find myself citing this video as saying, look, if you have questions, the video or the syllabus will explain it. So I want to just go through this really quickly to help all of you out so you can, achieve a good grade in the course. So this, as I said, is 2301. It's part of a two-part requirement by the state of Texas. You have to take government and politics of the United States, and you have to take Texas politics. As it says here, my name is Dr. Travis Braidwood. I've been a professor at A&M Kingsville for, I guess, like 7 years now. I did my undergrad at the University of West Florida, which is in Pensacola, Florida, and then I did my master's and PhD at Florida State, which is in Tallahassee, Florida, and then I came here. So as it says here, my email contact, my office location. That said, I'm not going to be doing office hours in person over the summer because this is a purely online course. So if you need to contact me, email is the best way. There's also if we want to set up like a Zoom call or Skype or something, we can work that out. But typically, email will handle most of that. This is also available at the top of the syllabus. So where does this course fit in other than just being Texas politics and American government? It fits into a broader scheme of all of political science. So for those of you that are just starting, or maybe you're not familiar, there's hard sciences, which are engineering and math and biology, stuff like that, and then there's the social sciences, which study human behavior. So social sciences include a bunch of things: psychology, economics, anthropology, and political science. So we study how individual people or groups of people interact to form political bodies or interact with government. And by definition, we are political animals, right? We need politics to solve problems. So in political science, for those of you that are maybe looking into this as a field, we have four major disciplines. Comparative politics, as the name suggests, looks at how nations are similar or dissimilar from one another, so comparing nations. International relations looks at how nations interact with one another, that could be peacefully or through war. Public policy studies policies, so policies by government and how those programs are implemented, succeed or fail. And then our thing here is American politics. So we're going to look at all of these bullet points below the American politics thing here. So some of these are going to be a complete chapter. For example, Congress, presidency, judiciary, bureaucracy, those are their own chapters. Each one of those is going to be a chapter in the textbook. Some of these we're only going to passingly look at. Other ones it'll overlap. Like, for example, political psychology doesn't have its own chapter, but it's going to come up a bunch of times throughout the semester. And so, in varying degrees, we're going to cover all of these issues. This isn't even the exhaustive list. This is just to give you an idea of what is contained within American politics. Now, of course, if you went to a different country like Canada or Australia, you would have Australian politics or Canadian politics. Here, of course, we're looking at American politics. And so, we're going to look at all the factors that weigh in to Americans making decisions with their government, right? Working with each other, working with their government to make these collective decisions. So, in terms of layout, before I transition to the syllabus, is there's been two major approaches, as I see it, to teaching this course. One is a historical approach, where we look at history and we say, the United States has this weird sort of conflux of events where the world's oldest democracy, longest lasting, as long as we ignore things like slavery and the fact that women couldn't vote, or that people under the age of 21 typically couldn't vote. And we say, look, the United States is this sort of weird amalgam of events. We've come up with this republic, and here we are. Alternatively, starting in about the early aughts, maybe mid-aughts, there was an alternative approach to teaching American government, and that is that the United States is not rare. They simply have come up with a solution to a problem. The problem is coordination. We need people to work together in a collective way. And so really, government in itself is simply the solution to this problem, and then representative government is the most equitable that we can come up with. And so really, this is really just an economic solution, right? So what we're going to do in this course is look mostly at the historical bit here. I'm going to look at a lot of the foundational material, but we will have a discussion of this alternative economic approach. With that, let me turn to the syllabus and walk you through how the course is laid out and how Blackboard is going to function for you. So this is our syllabus. It's found on the Blackboard site under the appropriately named Syllabus tab. So the syllabus itself just details course information, section number, contact info, yada yada. And the key thing of note, of course, is this highlighted warning at the very top. So I've taught a condensed 5-week course about 3 or 4 times, once in person, about 2 or 3 times online. And what I've realized is that some students mistakenly think that because it's a 5-week course, there's less material than there would be for a semester course. There is not. This is 16 weeks of material, which is a normal semester, fall or spring, and we're cramming it into 5 weeks. So, for example, when I did this in person at Florida State, we met every day, 5 days a week for 5 weeks, right? We crammed it in there. And the amount of material does not decline. So you have 16 weeks of material in 5 weeks. This is meaning that you're doing it at 3 times the pace, right? We're going really fast through this material. Now, some of this you can sort of work around your schedule. So, for example, all the lectures are going to be, video based. You can watch those anytime, but there's still going to be weekly requirements. So there's going to be weekly assignments, weekly deadlines, things like that. Now, there's no specific hard and fast dates because it's an online course, but you're still going to have to keep up. So if you're thinking, okay, I can wait until the very end of the 5 weeks, read the entire book, and then pass all of the exams, that doesn't work, right? There are 3 exams, and they're paced out through the semester, so you're going to have to keep up. And one of the key components here is keeping up. So if you're thinking about taking this course and you're like, I can't do that, I can't work, I wanted to just do everything at the end and hoped I passed, do not take the course because you will not keep up, right? You will overload yourself. So just keep that in mind as we move through this. So after that, we got course description. You can read that on your own. SLOs, you can read those on. I would skip those; they're boring. The book. So here's the book info. I'm using Patterson, the 13th edition. There's an ebook. There's a paper copy. It's totally up to you which one you want. For your purposes, for online, I would recommend maybe like renting it or getting, whatever. Because the online version is I don't like reading ebooks myself, but ebooks are easier to search, so you can use like the control find function, and it's much more useful that way. It's also cheaper. So I'm using the 13th edition, even though there is a 14th, and that's because the older edition is cheaper than the newer one. So I'm trying to save you money. This is the only required thing you need for the class. There's no other requirements but for this textbook. Everything else will be provided for you, but for the textbook. So I give you some links here on where to find the book. This is not an exhaustive list. You can find it elsewhere. And then finally, we will be doing some readings from the Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers. If you want to get a hard copy of those, they're like $1. I mean, they're in the public domain, so they're free. But if you want a hard copy, here's the one that I'm using, the Federalist and Anti-Federalist books. So let's turn to the grade breakdown. You've got your exams 1, 2, and 3. They make up 55% of the total grade. You can see exam 1 is worth less than 2 and 3. That's on purpose, so that way if you fail the first exam, it doesn't sting you as badly. So it's sort of like a burn-in or learning period. These exams are non-cumulative, so they're going to be, covering whatever chapters they cover, and that's it. It's not going to be, comprehensive review of the material for each exam. There's attendance and participation for 10% or 10 points. That is simply viewership. So it's clicking on the video link. So the way this works is, it'll explain a little bit below. Blackboard tracks if you click it, and that's it. It's simply looking at the videos and keeping pace. So following along as we move through the semester. So again, you can't pile it all on at the end. You got to keep up as we move through these 5 weeks very rapidly. And then finally, the last thing, these create a question assignments. There's going to be a total of 14 of these assignments. This is going to require that you craft multiple choice questions based on the readings. And then those questions will also, I'll pick some of the best of those, along with some of the ones I write myself. I'll compile them together into a PDF file. And this will also be your multiple choice questions. So you'll have a study guide. So you're effectively writing your own exams, or at least attempting to if your questions are good enough. So if you can do some quick math here, you can see that 15 plus 20 plus 20 plus 10 plus 35 adds to 100, right? Very easy to understand. Whenever I was an undergrad, I took classes and the professor would be like, you can earn 1,350 points. And it's just like, why, what? Just make it 100. Like, why are you doing this weird math? Just make it add up to 100. You don't need to have these bizarre scales, right? So for this class, it's going to be super easy to figure out your grade because you can go to the grades tab right there. You can click on the tab and it'll have a total for you. So at any time, as long as you can add or subtract, you can figure out what your grade is and what it could be, right? You'll always have this running total, and since it's going to end up being on the 100-point scale, you don't need to email me and ask, what is my grade? It's always there, right? You always know what it is. So this grade scheme, 90 to 100 and all that other stuff, that's per the university. I think it's every university in Texas. So standard sort of grade breakdown there. And then the last thing on this too, I forgot to mention here, is that there will be bonus assignments. I think probably just one. We only have 5 weeks, so normally in like a long semester, I can offer maybe one or two opportunities. Here, I think I can offer one, and I'll email to everybody. Here's your opportunity. It'll be in the form of a survey about politics. And yeah, so there you go. It'll be offered to everybody, so no need to email me and ask for extra credit. I'll offer it to everyone it simultaneously. So let's break this down a little bit and see how this grade distribution will work. So we have 3 exams here. They add up to 55%. Let me actually skip down a little bit further to the next section, and the reason why will become apparent in a second. So we got 3 exams. The vast majority of the grades for these exams are going to be multiple choice questions. There's going to be some short answer. There might be, I have here short essay or matching or something like that, but short essay, I mean like at most 3 sentences. You're never going to have to write like really long essay replies. So if the bulk of the grade are multiple choice questions, where am I getting those questions and what should you do to study? The biggest chunk of your grade, singularly, is from these create a question assignments, and they span the entire course of the 5-week semester. Throughout the course, you're going to be asked to write a total of 28 multiple choice questions, and as I said, these assignments, as you can see from the reading schedule, span the entirety of the semester. Typically, you're going to have about 3 of these assignments per week, right? Because we have a total of 14 of these. So normally when I teach a full 16-week course, I would ask students to write something like 2 multiple choice questions per week, and then it would span the entirety of the course. But since you guys are doing a condensed course, you're going to have to write a total of about 6 per week, right? Still not that heavy of a lift, right? You're basically just writing multiple choice questions. It's not too hard. So what I'm going to ask you to do, as it says here, is every time it's indicated on the syllabus, you are going to generate 2 multiple choice questions of your own design, right? Original questions based on the readings for that week. So as it says here, students will be expected to submit 2 questions per assignment per week. So, for example, actually, let's set it up here. So they give an example here for week 1. There's create a question assignment 1 through 3. So that means a total of 6 questions. Each assignment is 2 questions. A week, as it says here, begins on Sunday and it ends the following Saturday. So it's a full 7-day period, right? So what I expect you to do is for each of these assignments, we're going to go to Blackboard. So here's the Blackboard page. It'll look a little bit different for you because some of these things are hidden because there's nothing in them yet. I'm still sort of populating this. But there's a tab here called Create a Question Submissions. So you'll click on this bad boy. It'll pop this page up. It'll start with a splash that tells you some reminders. So it tells you make sure all of these elements are in your questions before you submit, so that way they're of good quality and they meet the guidelines outlined in the syllabus. And then you'll notice there are 14 different little tabs here, and these correspond to the 14 assignments. So if you click on one of these, it'll pop up with a reminder of how much each question is worth, which is 2.5 points to your final grade. And then there's a write submission tab. Click on that guy, and then you get a text box. So what I recommend doing in the syllabus is write your questions in a word processor like Microsoft Word or something else, and then paste them into Blackboard. There's a couple things here I want to really emphasize. One is I would not recommend writing just in this and not having it in like Word and then pasting it in. You can, but this thing is really clunky, and Blackboard is kind of a piece of garbage in some ways, and it's not the most intuitive thing to use. So you might want to, I would recommend typing them in something else and then pasting them in. If you don't have Microsoft Word, you can get it for free. All students have access to the entire Office suite. Word, Outlook, all that stuff. It's all downloadable via your enrollment. So if you want to edit through here, that there are other options, and this is why it's kind of clunky. You can click the triple dots here, and it'll drop down more options. So you could type in here if you want to, but it's again not super intuitive. So what I expect you to do is you're going to write your 2 multiple choice questions per assignment. So I'm going to say, let's just say this is a question, and then I'm going to create answers A, B, C, and D. And I will indicate the correct answer with an asterisk, star. And then underneath each question, I will write an explanation, um, why it's correct, and a page and source citation, right? I need all those elements in your multiple choice questions. So that's one question, and then I'll simply paste the second question right underneath of it. 2 questions per assignment. Now, if this seems a little difficult to keep track of, or if you're forgetting, don't forget the syllabus has all of this detailed for you, right? So what am I looking for in terms of questions? I want the questions to be formatted perfectly. So I give, to help you out, some examples. If you go to Blackboard and you go to the course library, there it is, there are example created questions here for you, and they open as a PDF. So take a look at the examples I've given you to help guide you as a template. One thing that might be easier for you to do too is you can just you can highlight this guy, copy and paste it, and then you have a working template, right? All you have to do every assignment is simply change the question, change the answers, change the explanation and source citation, and you're done, right? You've got it all sort of laid out for you. So take a look at the elements of the question. Let me zoom in a little bit. Oh, well, I guess that'll have to do. So we've got question text, right? Proper grammar, good question. Got a question mark there at the end. We've got 4 possible answers, A, B, C, and D. Notice there is no, A and B. There's no true false. It's got to be A, B, C, and D, right? They need to look uniform. Notice it's A period, B period, C period, D period. No parentheses, no other marking. It's got to be formatted like this. And the reason why I'm being such a pain in the butt about the formatting is because I have a full class. I've got like 37 or so of you guys in my class right now, guys and gals, and you're submitting 3 assignments per week, which is 6 questions per person. I'm grading hundreds of questions per week. I need to be able to easily process these questions, and I need to be able to take these questions in a uniform way and then make them into a study guide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the best of your questions along with some of my own. I'm going to delete that asterisk, which is the correct answer. I'm going to delete this explanation bit, and then I'm going to paste these into one big PDF file, an Adobe file, right? And then I'm going to post those into a folder called potential exam questions. Currently, this folder is empty, so it won't, when you load Blackboard, it'll probably appear, you won't see it at all, right? There's nothing there. But when I start getting those in, I'll start uploading those questions to Blackboard. In other words, you are writing or helping write your own exams, you and your peers. So you have an incentive to write good quality questions because one, that's the biggest portion of your grades. 35% of your grade are these multiple choice questions. You have a second incentive to write good questions because the best ones I'm going to take and actually put on the exam. So in other words, you could write your own question onto the exam, right? It helps fill out this process. So you will have a study guide, right? You'll have all of these multiple choice questions in advance. Since the multiple choice questions typically make up about 80% of the exam, the lowest grade any person should ever get on an exam is 80 because you know all of that in advance, right? You know what's coming ahead of time. So I need to be very strict about this formatting, right? It's got to be A, B, C, D. It's got to have all these elements, right? Got to have the asterisk, got to have the explanation, got to have the citation, right? I need all of these bits. If you're citing something that is not if it's from the textbook, it's pretty easy, right? You just cite the page and the chapter, right? If it's not from the textbook, because we're going to have a lot of readings that are outside of the textbook, you can simply cite the page that shows up on the file. So, for example, let's say I scanned a book chapter. You can cite that page number of the book chapter it's scanned, or you can cite the page number from the PDF file. So, for example, well, this one's out of the range here. Let me scoot. There we go. So you can see here, like this is page 3 of 6 of the syllabus, right? You need to give me something though. I need a page citation because sometimes people will put something in there and I don't even know what the hell they were going for, or it's just like a bad question. I want to look it up to see where they're getting this from. And so I need that citation, right? All those elements need to be there. So what am I looking for each of these questions? This is my grading rubric. Formatting. So does the formatting match perfectly? Is it based on the assigned readings for that day, or in this case, week, because we're not doing days, right? So the assigned readings from this uh, schedule readings, right? So is it based on these readings? Thirdly, where'd my thing go? Just lost it. There we go. Thirdly, is it correct? And did you mark it with an asterisk? You'd be surprised how many people create questions that are just wrong. The most common error is people will read something that the book or an outside reading mentions, and they assume that it's an exhaustive list. So, like, it'll say, let me give you like a silly example. Um, which of these is not a fruit? And it'll have like apple, banana, pear, and then the book will mention those. And then somebody will be like, oh, well, I'll assume that strawberry or something is not, and then they'll just fill in, assuming that the list that the book gave was an exhaustive list, but it's not, right? Sometimes the book is just making a point, it's using an illustration. It's not like literally everything within the realm of possibility. So make sure your answers are correct. If you're in doubt, just look it up. I mean, you can Google it and make sure that that's correct, right? Don't just assume that the book is telling you, everything that possibly could be right. Um, did you cite the source, right? That paid citation bit at the bottom, and then finally the quality. So in terms of quality, I'm looking for good quality questions that avoid minor points of minute trivia. I don't want to stump people, right? Generally, questions about dates are a bad idea. Don't ask questions about dates because this isn't a history class, right? We're trying to ask big picture questions. Don't ask questions about really minor details. Never ask questions about figures, for example. This is a closed book exam. How is somebody going to memorize every possible figure or illustration that's in the book? That's impossible, right? So you need to ask questions that ask big picture stuff. What is the point, right? What is the major takeaway? To help you with this in terms of quality, if you go to Blackboard and there it is, course library tab, there is a guide to help you. It's called the 14 Rules for Writing Multiple Choice Questions. It's written by some university thing, I don't remember. They're Brigham Young, and they have 14 points for writing good multiple choice questions. Now you might be thinking, well, 14, that's a lot. I'm not going to remember all 14 of these things, but some of these are really obvious. So, for example, like use good. There's one here that's like use good grammar. Well, that's obvious, right? Use proper spelling. That's obvious. Some of these are a little less intuitive. So, for example, use plausible distractors. Distractors are questions that are false, right? So if you have is it A, B, C, or D, only one of those is correct. The other ones are considered distractors, right? They're false answers. So you want to make sure that they're equal in terms of their length. You want to make sure that they're plausible so that you don't have just silly or stupid answers, right? So the question in that case it would be too easy, right? Keep your question length similar, so don't have one answer that's way longer than the others because that makes it stand out, or one answer that's way shorter than the others because that makes it stand out. And then key thing here too is this one is probably the least intuitive. Never ask all of the above or none of the above or A and B or B and C type answers. Never ask those because they don't actually test knowledge. They just test the ability of somebody to eliminate possibilities. So I don't want to see any of those. No all the above, no none of the aboves, no A and B or B and C or none of those, right? It's got to be avoid all of those poor questions, right? So take a look at this guide before you start writing. And as an additional reminder, when you click on the potential exam, or I'm sorry, not that one. The where did it go? There it is, the CAQ assignments tab. It has those warnings there, right? Before you submit, remember to do these things before you submit. And then the final thing I'll mention just before we move on here is that I pointed this out when I clicked on it, but remember when you click on these submissions, you need to click Write Submission and then paste your answers in here or type them in here. Do not upload files because I would have to Blackboard is a piece of junk. I would have to download every single submission and it would take hours, right? There's no way to mass download things. So I need you to literally type them in or paste them in. I cannot download them. So do not upload files. I will not grade them. Do not write in the comments tab. That's a submission. If you want to leave a comment, like maybe you had some sort of error or issue or something, that's fine. I'll get that. But don't paste your questions in here because what happens is the comments thing squishes everything together into one line of text, and I can't. It's incomprehensible. It's like one big blob. So if you have a comment, that's fine, but don't submit them your assignments in there. You need to click that Write Submission tab. And that's it. You're done. Let's say you make a mistake and you want to go back and you want to resubmit it. That's fine. I'll always grade the most recent submission, so you can submit as many times as you want, so long as they're turned in before the end of the week. So again, let's just recap this real quick. Like, you got these assignments. They're going to span the course of the semester. In a given week, you're going to have anywhere between, I think, 1 and 3 of these create a question assignments due. You can see which assignments are due here in the column of the course. What is this, library or reading list or whatever. You can see that for most of these weeks, you're going to have 3 of these assignments, which means a total of 6 questions, right? 2 questions per assignment. However, for the last week, there's only 2 assignments due, and they're going to span the course of the semester. The questions are going to be based on the readings for that week, and they need to be submitted before the end of the week. If you want to work ahead, you can. So what happened the last semester I did this, I had a student that said, okay, well, I'm just going to submit all of my questions like within the first couple weeks, and that's it. They're done, right? You're always free to work ahead. You're never free to work behind. So you have to keep pace by submitting these assignments as we work our way through the semester. You submit your questions, I grade them, I'll leave you feedback, and when you go to the My Grades tab, where is it? There it is, My Grades tab, there'll be, once it's graded, the assignment will have a score, and it'll have a little pencil icon next to it, and it'll tell you what you missed or got wrong, or it'll give you feedback. I'll never take away points without telling you why. One other thing I will do to help you out is for this first set of assignments, 1, 2, and 3, I'm going to give everybody full credit so long as you submit 2 multiple choice questions per assignment in good faith, meaning you tried. And what I'll do for these first questions is I'll tell everyone what you would have got. In other words, what mistakes you made. So then when we start assignments 4, 5, and 6 the following week, you don't make those same mistakes. From that point forward, from assignments 4 all the way through 14, then I'll start deducting points if you start making mistakes. Where can you lose points? Here, right? It needs to conform to the guidelines of the rubric. So I'll tell you if you're losing points, why you're losing points, okay? All right, continuing on. Attendance/participation, this is purely viewership. It's not a participation because it's all online. So what this will look like is, as it says here, simply click on the video before the week ends to earn the credit. Now, the one thing to note here is that you need to make sure you're not right-clicking and opening a new tab. For some reason, Blackboard doesn't register that. So all you got to do to earn participation credit or viewership credit is you go to the video lecture slides. There will be all the video slides will be posted here, right? And then here are the video lectures sorted by week. So you click within the folder, and then you'll click on the corresponding lecture. Once you click on it, Blackboard records that click. It says when you did it, whatever, every time you click, it records it, and then I will count that as viewership. That's all you got to do. So in reality, I'm not tracking how long you're viewing the video. You can jump around, you can skip forward, whatever, right? It's totally up to you. I just want to see that you're keeping pace. So it's a very, very easy grade. So what you need to do is, as we move through the weeks, you need to keep pace by watching the videos that correspond to the material. In other words, just keep up, right? Keep up by watching the video lectures, by clicking the links. You'll get an easy 10% of your grade is simply by clicking, right? And again, feel free to work ahead, right? You could watch all the videos ahead if you wanted to. That's fine, right? You can work ahead. You can just never fall behind. If there are any bonus assignments, I'll let the entire class know. Please don't ask for arbitrary increases in grade because they will fall on deaf ears. Academic Honor Code, you can read that on your own. Course email system, definitely a good idea to form study groups if you want to reach out. Just don't abuse the course email system. University 6-drop policy, you can read that on your own. Students with disabilities, you need to register with the DRC if you haven't done so already to get any testing or work accommodations. Otherwise, they won't be extended. And then finally, schedule readings. One final reminder, it tells you at the very top, a week begins on Sunday at 12:01 a.m., just after midnight, and then ends the following Saturday at midnight. So it's a full 7 days, right? So basically, it looks just like a calendar would. So don't get those dates mixed up. There are some exceptions, right? So for example, this week begins on Monday. Why? Because that's the day that the university is designated as the first day of class. That's the only reason, right? So this week is a little bit shorter than the other weeks, right? And you'll also notice that week 5 is also a little bit shorter. It's only August 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's only those days. It doesn't extend the full 7 days. There's also notably less material here to make up for that fact, right? The scheduled readings you can take a look at on your own time. It's pretty straightforward. We're going to proceed mostly in the same way as the book is arranged, with one notable exception. After we finish chapter 5 down here, which is civil rights, we're going to jump to chapter 11, which is Congress. It makes more sense in my mind to look at civil rights and then talk about the institutions rather than talk about civil rights and then talk about chapter 6, which is public opinion. It seems to, in my mind, it makes more sense to talk about public opinion after you know what the institutions are about, right? So what we'll do is we'll go from 5 to 11, 12, 13, 14, and then we'll double back to chapter 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. There are chapters 15, I think there might even be a 16, but we're not going to address those. They deal with like foreign policy, I think. We don't have time to go over those chapters. And instead, we'll sort of cover them in some of the other chapters as we move through, right? Your syllabus might look a little bit different. I'm still sort of tinkering with the margins here, but otherwise, none of the material itself will change, or at least it shouldn't. And then the last thing to note on here are the exams. So exams will open for an entire week, and it'll cover all the material before it. They're non-cumulative, in other words, right? So this, for example, the first exam will cover all the materials from the beginning of the semester through chapter 4. So it's going to cover all of this material right here, chapter 4 stuff, but it won't cover chapter 5 material. That'll roll over to the second exam. And if you scroll down and you look at exam 2, it says this will cover civil rights, Congress, presidency, bureaucracy, and then it lists the chapter numbers and the related outside readings, right? All this other stuff that's available on BB or Blackboard, right? Everything in this book, in this class, will be available via the textbook, or it'll be made available on Blackboard. And it's, as I mentioned, pretty easy to find. You just go to the course library, boom, and they're all sorted according to the weeks in chronological order. So it should appear in Blackboard in the same order as it appears on the syllabus. It should be pretty easy to find. And then we have our final exam. It's, as I mentioned, these exams are going to be open for a full week, so you'll be able to take it at your convenience. And then once that week is over, the exam will close, and then I'll grade them as fast as I can. Then here's your final exam. This spans all the way from August 1 to 5. Just like the previous exams, it covers chapters 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 and related readings. Same format, mostly multiple choice. There's going to be some short answer questions, and there'll be optional bonuses. And that's it. All right, if you have any other additional questions, just send me an email and let me know. Hopefully this answered all of it. And I look forward to working with you guys through this very compressed semester.